It's become clear over the last few hours that Kherson now belongs to the Ukrainians. It's clear also that the Russians have withdrawn.
In what could be a major defeat for Vladimir Putin, Russia's military says it is withdrawing from the port city of Kherson.
Without acknowledging failure, Russia's top general in Ukraine announced an apparent retreat from Kherson.
The recent withdrawal from the strategic southern city of Kherson is the latest setback in Russia's invasion of Ukraine. After 9 months of war, Russia's military has struggled to strike a decisive blow, and with the winter setting in, it seems that the war will grind on. There are 10 reasons why Russia's invasion plan has failed. Russia prosecuted the war with many assumptions that turned out to be completely wrong. Russia did not expect to fight a high-intensity battle in Ukraine and bet on a quick collapse of the Ukrainian state and military. Russia assumed Kiev would fall in a matter of days. She also assumed the Ukrainian president was so unpopular the Ukrainian people would not oppose his overthrow. All of these assumptions were based on hubris rather than raw intelligence. This led Russia to be overconfident and deploy forces based on the best case scenario rather than the worst case scenario. Putin deployed nearly 200,000 troops to invade Ukraine. Considering Ukraine is Europe's largest country and has its own army of around 300,000 troops, Russian troops were always going to be outnumbered. Russia's military was designed to fight short, high-intensity war, but without full mobilization, Russia's military was too small. Putin presented the Russian intervention as a special military operation which didn't need the majority of the Russian armed forces. But the announcement that Russia was mobilizing further soldiers in September 2022 meant the initial number of soldiers had failed to achieve the military objectives set for them. The performance of Russia's army in Ukraine bears little resemblance to the immaculate fighting record of the Red Square parades and Kremlin propaganda. There are numerous videos online that show Russian soldiers split off from their units walking down roads. This lack of discipline is due to a third of Russia's army being conscripts. Conscripts are younger, less motivated, and poorly trained, and therefore have a negative impact on the effectiveness of an army. Russian forces launched an invasion of Ukraine with a three-pronged battle strategy. Russia struck from the north from Belarus towards Kiev, from the south towards Kherson and Odessa, and east from Donbass. But there was no coordination between these three forces. There was in fact no integrated battle plan. There were merely three separate theatres of operation. It took 2 months for General Alexander Vornikov to be appointed overall commander of Russian forces. Up to 27 Russian generals and commanders had died in the war, as they were forced to move towards front lines to get an accurate assessment of the war. The most critical area of Russian failure has been logistics. A Russian convoy of vehicles got stuck 60 miles long from Belarus down to Kiev, as vehicles ran out of fuel as they got too far ahead of supplies. Logistics are key to any war effort, and Russia has a long history of logistical failures, and this has borne out again in Ukraine. In effect, Russian troops who conducted the northern thrust outran their supply lines, and this front came to a halt. In any other war, the convoy of trucks would have been sitting ducks and would have all been decimated by airstrikes. Russia has built a reputation for hybrid warfare.
No country has weaponized its cyber capabilities as maliciously and irresponsibly as Russia.
Russia is behind the hacks that have brought Democratic Party and Clinton campaign emails into the public eye.
The growing furor over Moscow's use of social media to influence the 2016 presidential election.
In the US, the hacking of the Democratic Party email servers led many to believe Russia interfered in the US elections and played a key role in getting Donald Trump elected. But Russian intelligence failed to ascertain the West's response to a Russian invasion of Ukraine, as well as Ukrainian capabilities. Ukraine has shown significant capabilities since Russia invaded. This has been due to a significant Western military support. It would seem at this critical juncture, Russian assumptions superseded intelligence collection, which has proven deadly. Russia's Air Force has been notably absent in the war. Russia has never conceived of or run a strategic air campaign. This is because air power is difficult to wield effectively. Air forces are dependent on an array of technologies that require highly trained personnel who can quickly set up what amounts to an airborne military ecosystem. Airborne radar stations, fighters to protect and police the skies, refueling aircraft to keep everyone full of gas, and electronic warfare planes to keep enemy defenses suppressed. These sorts of combined operations involve hundreds of aircraft and thousands of people in tightly choreographed dance that takes a lifetime to master. Despite Russia's reputation for spying and surveillance, Ukraine has continued to intercept Russian communications. Russian soldiers, rather than sticking to secure military communication lines, many have been using the local telecoms networks. The Russians have a modern, secure radio system for the military, but for some reason Russia has used basic, off-the-shelf, unencrypted radio communications that made it relatively easy for the Ukrainians and others to listen in. Ukraine's military intelligence has regularly put out audio on social media, some of its intercepts of Russian soldiers communicating. Russia has fought most of the war without combining different arms of its military. This has caused it huge problems. Much of Russia's ground attacks have seen Russian forces seize territory with no air support, which has led to high casualties. Combined arms operations see the joining of infantry, armor, and artillery, different combat arms in a mutual support of each other. But on many occasions, Russian infantry has gone into battles with no armor, or in some cases, tanks without any artillery cover, leading to losses in the battlefield. Russia has failed to dominate Ukrainian airspace. As a result, this has allowed Ukrainian UAVs and jets to target Russian columns. Russia's February 24th airstrike were largely ineffective in landing an immediate knockout blow. In fact, even today, the Russians still haven't suppressed Ukraine's air defenses. Russia has been forced to use Iranian-made explosives-laden drones to bombard Ukrainian cities. Russia's inability to plan and conduct large, complex aerial strike packages is one of the country's most significant unforeseen weaknesses during this war. Without the ability to wear down and demoralize Ukraine through airstrikes, Russia is faced with the much more drawn-out prospect of relying solely on ground forces to grind out victory. There is no doubt Russia has struggled in its invasion of Ukraine, but whilst it's down, it is not out of the war. Russia historically starts wars badly, it then makes adjustments and then wins wars in a very ugly way. This is how it emerged victorious in World War II against the Nazis, and how it grinded out a victory in Chechnya.